Hello.
Hello, hello. My name's Micah McCaw.
My name's Jordan McCaw.
Together, we are united in that sanctimonious union that is called marriage.
Also, a podcast.
And
this is the McCaw Podcast universe where we exist in marriage and in podcasts to prove people wrong when they say sequels are never better than the originals.
And we cover film franchises of trilogies or more. So sometimes we get a newbie who talks to us. And they say, like, hey, have you covered Blade Runner or something like that? No. We do.
Blade Runner?
Yeah, Blade Runner.
Why would we cover Blade Runner?
I'm explaining why we wouldn't.
Okay.
And so, someone might come up to us and say that, and we go, no, it has to be 3 or more.
Yeah.
And we say, if you want us to cover movies where it's only 2 entries, you got to go to our patreon.com/MICAHMCCAW to hear us do that.
But today, we're here to talk about The Fate of the Furious because we are fast and furiously going, not fast enough, but maybe a little too furiously going through the Fast and Furious franchise.
We are.
And
nope.
I think you were going to mention this, but maybe I'll just steal it from you.
Okay.
But we are now on the 8th movie in this franchise.
Yes.
And Mike and I would just like our listeners to know, especially those who requested it, we get it.
Yeah.
This is all a joke, and you got
We
us.
finally figured it out yesterday that we were like, oh, everyone was pranking us.
Yes.
And that it's like a big, talk about, conspiracies are thrown around all the time now. And now I get it. People like Patrick Willems, who we love and want on the podcast someday. It's like, oh, he made videos praising this and stuff like that because he's kidding. It's like an April Fool's joke.
Yes. All of it's, every guest that we've had so far.
They're all just
big
kidding.
Fans, it's just a big joke
and now
on
I
us.
get it. Now I get it. So it's like, okay, cool. You got us.
Right.
Bully on us, I guess.
Took us 8 movies to figure it out.
Yeah. No, but seriously, folks, we are 8 movies in, and this is by far the weirdest franchise we've covered.
Yes.
And
it is the least consistent franchise. It's the most inconsistent franchise. And it is among the most disappointing franchises for that reason.
yeah, we were talking about this the other day, and I feel like of the series that we've covered, this one and Terminator I put in kind of the same boat.
Yeah.
Where it's like, although Terminator's highs are way higher than
of course,
any of these movies, but when a Terminator movie is bad, it's bad.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like hard to watch. And I found that to be my experience in this series, where 5 was easy to watch and 7 was great. And the rest of the movies have been pretty hard to watch.
Yes.
Having
this has
said
probably
that,
been the most entertainingly bad one. And part of it is the story is one of the dumbest stories ever to be put to film. And guys, there's a movie where Letty loses her memory all of a sudden. And that was dumb.
Yeah.
But it's just, I think because the last one was so good, this one being so bad, and we've been through here before. 5 was really good, and 6 was a train wreck.
Yeah.
So here we are again. 7 was the best one, and I think it will be the best one out of all of them.
Absolutely.
And this one was so laughably bad that it made it kind of enjoyable.
Uh-huh.
I don't know a single thing that happened in this movie. I don't know why it happened. I mean, sure, we're gonna go through it, and we're gonna say why things happen, but I still don't know why they happen.
Well, so certainly I would say that in this series, the odd-numbered movies are way better than the even-numbered movies so far.
Yeah.
Like by a mile.
Yeah.
Because 1 is fun. It's kind of bad, but it's kind of charming. 2 is crazy bad. 3, I don't think is very good.
What even happened in 3?
That's Tokyo Drift.
Oh, okay.
But 3 is definitely better than 4 and 6.
Yeah.
And 4 is a nightmare. 6 is a nightmare. And this one, funny enough, though, having said all that, I think this movie is my 3rd favorite.
I don't think it's my 3rd favorite.
Because, and I have to, so a lot of times with these movies, I'll think through them, at the end of a series, we'll rate the series and which movies we like the most. And sometimes I'm a little more critical, and sometimes I think in certain ways and all that stuff. But this time I am like, no, I have to judge it purely on rewatchability, not on the quality. Because it's like first 2 will be quality, 7 and 5. And then it's like, well, this one I think I could rewatch more than I could rewatch any of the other ones. That's where it's at right now. Okay. But once the dust settles and we've Hobbsed and shot it and we've F9'd it.
Because of this movie, though, I was like, I am ready for that Hobbs and Shaw movie. I hope it's what I'm hoping it is.
Yeah.
I just want, especially in this movie, when we found out that Jason Statham was dead. And The Rock like punches a wall because they're in love with each other.
Yeah,
like in a they have a bromance. They have a classic Point Break bromance. It made me just so like I would watch a movie that it was just them as the leads, and I'm glad that I'm gonna get it because they were probably the best parts of the movie.
Absolutely. I mean, I kind of feel like the baby scene is like the best part of the whole movie.
It's the best worst part of the movie, the baby part.
No, I'm talking about when Statham has the baby.
Oh, well, yeah.
I think that was maybe the best scene of the movie.
It was the most interesting. It was among the most interesting action in the movie, of which there was little.
Right. But I guess, what am I? I will say that the beginning of this movie, I was like, oh, dang, am I gonna like absolutely love, like, am I now a Fast and Furious fan? The Cuba stuff, I was so into.
Yeah, I like that stuff.
And then the movie never like reached that height again.
No, which is, I feel like often an action movie thing, unfortunately, or even like a superhero thing where it's just like, I'm so excited to be back and watching all these people that I love. Like, let's just have it be Dom and Letty the whole movie. I'm fine with that, just hanging out in Cuba.
And then
we get into craziness.
But so, okay,
this is the most superhero movie out of all of them. And
this one is like Avengers: Age of Ultron.
At one point, I said
format.
Charlize Theron was given like her 5th monologue, and I said she's in the wrong franchise.
Yeah, 'cause she's doing like supervillain stuff.
Yes,
it's weird.
And what does this man from LA who just started out drag racing and all he wants is to live his quiet life, what does he have anything to do with? I mean, just whatever. It started so simple.
Yeah. And
even then it wasn't that simple because it was a lot of undercover garbage, but it used to be so simple, guys.
But I like that it's more bombastic. It's this weird thing where it's like, I think the story to this movie's really bad, and I think I would like this movie 50% more if it was 40% more practical.
Yeah.
Because the series,
it looked really bad.
The series has done a really good job of, I mean, see our last episode, we were like raving about the movie, and a lot of it was practical stunts. And there were stuff in this movie that I was like, if James Wan was behind the camera, that would have been real.
And here's a big thing I want to say that I think we've said on the podcast before. Mike and I have come a long way. I think both of us at a point in our lives, we're at a point where it's like everything has to be practical. If there's any CGI, I hate it. And everyone has to go through that, I think, on their movie watching journey.
Right.
And then you get to a point where you maybe see like way more CGI is used in dramas that you would never even know. Like it's just become part of movies.
It's a part of filmmaking. It just is.
A lot of what you do see, even in action movies, are impossible. Even in the practical sense, they have to put in some things or take things out because it's impossible to do that. But in the last movie, it was so much of it was practical. That's what makes it even more disappointing when you watch the next one and it's like not practical at all, like hardly.
Yeah,
that's the killer for me.
Yeah, me too.
Because you know what they can and have done.
Well, and there's certain sequences like in this movie when they do the zombie car thing.
Yeah.
Where I think that sequence was really cool, and there were elements of it that were definitely practical, and those parts were really cool. Mm-hmm. But it's like you could have just done all of this practically. Like the insane stunts I've seen you do in the series, you could have pulled that off.
Yeah.
And then the CGI would be deleting the drivers.
Yeah.
You know, like going in and making sure you can't see any drivers. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure to some degree they did that. But there were some shots where it was like, oh, that's pretty bad looking. And like all of the ice stuff was fairly bad, except for there were still some wow moments.
Yeah, the ice stuff was like, you know, the same time as the baby stuff.
Yeah.
That was like, this is the most interesting. I mean, I'd love watching the rocket out of a car and push a torpedo towards another car.
Oh, I mean, that was cool.
Give me that every day. But
we like bombastic.
Yeah.
And I think I could totally be wrong. I want to know if anything comes to mind. But I just think in general, I'm not relegating this only to Fast and Furious. I think CGI has not really figured out ice and snow yet in action sequences.
Yeah. Well, don't you think that part of it is because, like, things that are lighter, it's just harder to make it look real because you have less definition that you can put into it. That's the only thing I can think of. It just makes me think of the White Orc in The Hobbit. And I remember, I think, like, learning, like, the one reason why it looks so bad, I mean, other than it just being a terrible choice, but it's like, you can't put that much definition into it, like that much detail into it.
Yeah.
Because it's white.
Right.
Does that make sense? Am I making sense?
I think so, yeah.
So I think it is just harder.
Yeah, I think we will crack it someday.
I don't think it looked terrible.
Well, I just think like a lot of the scenes where like the cars are driving and you're seeing the way the tires are hitting the ice and stuff. It's like, oh, that's just not real. It just doesn't look good.
Yeah, but also, how else are they going to do it? Yeah,
and at the same token, it's like pick and choose your battles. They are on ice, which is fun.
Yeah, I mean, where did they actually shoot that?
I don't know.
Okay.
Antarctica. It's all practical, actually. I just looked it up.
I remember seeing trailers for this, and I thought that they were in Antarctica.
I thought they were as well. I just assumed that.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's get into the movie. You better strap in your seatbelt because I'm dropping the bomb. We're going through the Dwayne and Vin Diesel feud on this episode.
Let's get it.
So, before we do that, though, the only change in personnel...
Wait, let me just go through actors because that's going to be way more interesting than the two people I have to cover.
Okay.
I will say I have stopped doing work ahead of time for this series. One, they don't introduce that many new people. Two, I don't care anymore. Charlize Theron, we have covered. If anyone has listened to our Mad Max series, Micah reminded me. I forgot that we have covered her. She is awful in this movie, and that sucks because I like her.
I would say I'm a fan. I usually, like, if I'm at the theaters and I see a trailer and it's got her in it.
Do you remember being really good in Prometheus? Because I remember her being good in that.
I remember her being good in it.
I mean, this movie was so bad. And do not. Why did we give her dreadlocks?
I know.
In the future movie, she has a bowl cut. What are we doing, guys? It's so bad. Yeah. She is like, it is among the worst. Like, I hope she got nominated for Razzie Awards. Like, it is.
No,
bad.
We don't like the Razzies.
I'm just saying, Micah.
Screw the Razzies.
That bad.
Yeah.
It was making me so mad. They were just like whisper in a sultry voice the whole time. Yeah. Anyway, we have Scott Eastwood, who is kind of the Brian replacement.
We have to talk. Well, no, we'll save it.
So he is actually in Suicide Squad. I don't remember covering him in it. Probably didn't because there's just so many other people. Yeah. But this is Clint Eastwood's son.
Yeah.
Son, right?
Yeah, it's his son. Yeah.
He's also in Pacific Rim. Uprising.
Okay. The one we haven't seen.
He must replace Charlie Hunnam because they actually don't look that different to me.
Okay, that's a little bit wild, but let's blow past it.
He's also in The Longest Ride. Dangerous, Outpost. He is very whatever to me.
Well, okay, let's talk about it. So here's the thing. I think he's very bad in this movie. I think he makes bad decisions, and he doesn't quite have enough charisma to be what he's trying to be. But I think there's something else that really hurts him, is he looks so much like Clint Eastwood, but without like the kind of weird, unique things that make... Here's what he looks like. He looks like someone made a video game that starred Clint Eastwood for a PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
So like it's like, that it's in Eastwood, but it kind of doesn't look like Clint Eastwood. And I think that hurts him because you're like, this guy should look a little bit different.
He's got a real army hammer
Yeah, Army Hammer.
Vibe where it's just so symmetrically perfect of a face.
That it's a little boring.
It's so boring.
Yeah.
Not much character in it.
Like Clint's got, he's got grit on his face.
Yeah.
You know, he's someone who could maybe cry macho.
Yeah.
A very bad movie, folks. So yeah, Scott Eastwood.
Also, just Christopher Hivju. Don't know if I pronounced that correctly. It was like the right hand man to Charlize. He was. Yeah. He's also in Game of Thrones and After Earth.
Okay. So on is that all the folks you're covering? Okay. So on the creative team behind the camera, it is the same crew. The difference is the director, which I'll get to in a second. This movie comes out April 14th, 2017, and the budget to this movie, Jordan, is astronomical.
Really?
This was a $250 million budgeted movie.
Wow.
And what's crazy is in the U.S. it made $225.
Ooh, that's not good.
Domestically, not great, but worldwide, $1.2 billion. Huge success. But in the U.S., not as much. But what Jordan and I were both wondering is, like, how come... Because we have a new director. His name's F. Gary Gray. And he's done the new Men in Black movie.
Italian Job.
He's done, like, a ton of music videos. He's been around for a while. He did Straight Out of Compton. So, Straight Out of. I think it's Out of Compton.
Yeah.
But we were like, why did they hire this guy and not hire James Wan again? Or not bring Justin Lin back?
Yeah.
You know? And so, here's what happened. So, James Wan apparently was contractually bound to make 8 and 9.
Whoa.
But I didn't really find a corroboration of that simple fact, so I'm not totally certain if he had that contract.
Maybe that means he had first dibs.
Yeah, probably. So the studios come to him and they go, "Hey, you want to make 8? You got it." But he's like, "Actually, I want to make Conjuring 2, and I don't want to make the fast movie."
Wow.
And now keep in mind, he had a 2-year production that included Paul Walker's death, rewrites, reshoots, losing, a valuable cast member, and then there's also this thing that James Wan does not confirm. He does not. This is hearsay, what I'm about to say. But apparently, Vin Diesel's pretty hard to work with.
Yeah.
And Vin Diesel would, be like, "Oh no, I want to sit in on the planning of this action sequence, and I want to make the decisions." And
is he a producer on these movies?
I believe he is. I'm not positive.
Okay.
So that could contribute to why he didn't do it. But James Wan has never confirmed that. He's a stand-up guy. He's not going to tell tales out of school. I will say,
wouldn't be surprised if that's the case in terms of how involved Vin is, especially because he wouldn't do the second movie because it wasn't up to his standards.
And Jordan, that's the tip of the proverbial iceberg with Vin that I'm going to go through. So then they go to Justin Lin, the studio, and they go, "Hey, do you want to make number 8?
And he said no because of Vin?
And he said...
No, because of The Rock.
"I'm working on Star Trek Beyond, and I'd rather make that movie."
I didn't know he did that.
Yeah, so now we know whenever we cover Star Trek that we'll not like the third Star Trek movie.
You don't know that.
I don't know that.
We haven't seen him do sci-fi.
But I don't think he's very good. So then the studio goes back to James Wan, and they offer him a apparently life-altering amount of money to make the movie.
Is that quoted? Life-altering?
It is.
Wow.
And he's like, "No, I would rather make Conjuring 2.
Wow. That's cool. Especially since apparently Conjuring 2 is really good. So
I've heard that, yeah.
That's cool.
So James Wan, we've been ringing that bell for a while, but I love this guy so much.
Rather you make a Conjuring movie than make another Fast movie. I'd rather him do a horror movie. I'd rather him make six Malignants than another Fast movie.
Here's what I will say about James Wan. If he wants to make any franchise movie, I say greenlight it.
Yeah.
If he was like, "Hey, I want to make Hannibal Rising. I want to remake Hannibal Rising." One of the worst movies I've ever seen. I would say give him the keys to the kingdom because it'll be the best movie since Silence of the Lamb for Hannibal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or if he wanted to come back to Fast, I would say sure. Because after we watched Fast 6, I was like, there's no way I will like any more of these.
I agree. I'm just saying, if I were him and I had to choose between doing my passion, or not to say that not to say that he wasn't passionate about these things.
Oh, he was. Especially seeing the interviews and stuff.
What career history-wise has been more passionate about, I'd rather him do that.
Yeah. So.
Life-altering amount of money, though. That's crazy.
I know. So then we have what happens next. They finally get F. Gary Gray. And so he starts working on it. Okay. That explains why they chose this.
I'm sorry, can you remember why Justin Lin didn't do it again?
Star Trek Beyond. So that explains why, because as much as F. Gary Gray is an established filmmaker, he seems like an odd choice for this, besides having done Italian Job almost 2 decades earlier, or like 15 years earlier.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's just kind of like, huh?
Charlize.
Oh, yeah, she's in that.
Yeah.
Okay. But now we're going to get into the juice, baby. So this is from an article by GQ. And this article...
How come you didn't send me this article?
Because I wanted to tell you about it. So this details an observation that when you watch the Fast and Furious movies, the person writing the article notes that nobody ever loses any fights.
Mm-hmm.
So they're talking about like The Rock and Statham get in a fight, but it gets broken up before a clear winner can do it, or a bomb goes off before a clear winner. And so they're just pointing that out, and they're like, why is this? They get into the logistics of why that is so. So, early on in the series, Vin Diesel developed a complicated system in which he assigned numerical values to...
Sorry, who?
Vin Diesel.
Okay.
A complicated system in which he assigned numerical values to each blow incurred by each star. Punches, kicks, headbutts, as a way of keeping tabs on who was coming out on top.
So someone has a big alpha male complex / is really bored.
/ plays D&D.
Yeah.
So he's literally saying like, hey, that headbutt is 4 damage for me. So I need to now incur 5 damage.
Yeah.
So this started becoming, quote, unwieldy. And so producer Michael Fotel confirmed to the Wall Street Journal that fight scenes were then choreographed beforehand so that they wouldn't be too one-sided.
What does that mean, before like Vin can know?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
That's just what the article said beforehand. A loose definition there. But even so I guess instead of, they're just choreographing him way ahead of time, getting an okay from Vin and all that stuff.
Okay.
That's what I would assume that means.
Okay.
But even still, Vin Diesel has his younger sister, who's a producer on the films,
okay,
come to set and count how many times he's getting punched so that it's not lopsided. Jordan just rolled her eyes. So that's the Vin of it all. Now, Jordan, we're not even to the Rock thing yet. This is just the punching. Jason Statham has a clause in his contract. Now, I don't know if this is for any movie he's in or Fast and Furious, but he has a clause that does not allow him to get beaten up too bad.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And The Rock...
So he's the smallest out of all 3 of them, and...
Mm-hmm. I mean, he is known for action.
He is.
And the article points out...
It's him and The Rock in a fight.
It's like The Rock would punch him and he's dead.
Right?
Yeah, but no. Okay. Because in his contract... I mean, the pen is mightier than the sword, is it not? But the article pointed out some famous, Hollywood stories of like, oh my gosh, what's his name? The guy who's in Bullet and The Great Escape, Steve McQueen, and how he was in a movie with, I think, Paul Newman. I actually can't remember who it was, but there was this whole thing where like the poster, his name had to be a certain size, and then the other actor's name had to be, there was like a whole...
And that continues today. But
yeah, and yeah. So the person in the article is kind of pointing out like, this is just a different version of that.
Yeah.
And like Samuel Jackson, which is awesome. He has something in his contracts where like, I think he like can't go like a week without going to golf courses or something like that. So he like has to be near golf courses wherever they're filming, which I'm like, if you're Sam Jackson, you deserve that.
Oh, the guy's like in his 70s.
Yeah.
Let him do what he wants.
And you know, like, what's his name? Jack Nicholson. He always goes to Lakers games. I mean, he doesn't act anymore, but for a time it was like,
he would never miss a home game.
Yeah, it's like he has to fly back so that he can go to the Lakers home game and then go back. So, you know, it is a thing, but The Rock, his thing, and we don't know, you know, we don't know everything, but this is confirmed reporting here. But he had them change something in the script so that instead of lying on the floor after a fight, he was sitting during the fight, like once the fight was over. So it was like he didn't get beat enough that he was lying down.
Okay.
So that's that part of it. Now we get into the actual beef.
This is the same GQ article.
Now these are I corroborated different articles and I was checking.
Well, I just was curious if like the whoever wrote this article, that was how this all began, and then they uncovered like that this is much deeper than that.
Yeah. So
in like the same article,
the GQ was just about the punches and the fighting, but it's worth noting that I think we can extrapolate. We can allow the fighting article to inform what I'm going to talk about next. So some of this is hearsay, but some of it is confirmed. You got to read between the lines. Here we go. In 2016, Johnson posts a video on his Instagram where he refers to an unnamed member of the cast as a, quote, candy ass. And they are, like, tough to work with, and they're not good.
Why would he do that?
And then he posts another video. Now, this is a little later down, and I believe this is when they wrapped filming for Fate. And he thanks...
Everybody but Vin.
Oh,
boy. Okay.
Thanks Scott Eastwood, Natalie Emmanuel, but pointedly did not mention Vin Diesel. So people had, at the time before that, they were like, who is he talking about? And then they're like, okay, it's definitely Vin.
Does he think Jason?
Well, I didn't see the video. I just...
Well, I guess we would assume, yes, he did, if the only person whose name is Vin.
And I would imagine, because the first video is deleted, I would imagine the second video is probably deleted by now, too. And then Michelle Rodriguez confirms that there was tension between the two men on set.
Mm-hmm.
And then, so this is in October of 2017. So this is after Fate of the Furious comes out. Tyrese makes a post where he says, quote, congratulations to The Rock and your brother-in-law, a.k.a. $7 producing partner, yada, 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 for making the Fast and Furious franchise about you, all caps.
What?
So he's saying, and I guess this post was blaming him.
Blaming The Rock?
It was blaming The Rock because F9 got delayed. And this is before COVID.
Oh, because he was being difficult about certain things with Vin.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Tyrese is like, thanks for making this series about you. Now the movie's delayed. Thanks a lot. You suck, basically. I'm sure that post is deleted as well. But Diesel comes out and he's like, hey, we can't blame a delay on a single person. Like, I don't think that that's fair.
On two people.
No, he says that's not a fair thing to say. And then Hobbs and Shaw comes out. Johnson thanks Vin for the support of the spinoff. Okay, so maybe things are going to be okay.
Yeah, because he's like, of course he's going to thank him. He got him out of his franchise.
And then Vin Diesel. I think this is last year. So this feud is still kind of going on, but it's simmered a little bit. But then last year it comes back up. Vin Diesel talks about when they first hired Dwayne, and he said that, you know, there may have been some tension between the two because he had to give him a lot of tough love to get the right performance out of Dwayne.
Okay.
I'm
sure The Rock loves those words, like the language of that.
In November of 2021, The Rock said when he heard that, he just laughed for a long time.
Yeah. I would not want to be in the presence of either of these men. That's scary.
So then Johnson revealed in 2021 that he would not be returning to the franchise.
Okay.
So this is last year, July of last year. I will not come back to the franchise. He said, quote, I've wished them well. I wish them well on Fast 9, and I wish them the best of luck on Fast 10 and Fast 11 and the rest of the Fast and Furious movies they do that will be without me. And then even recently in November, Johnson has said that crew from Fast 8 have since quietly thanked him for the things he said about Vin.
Oh, okay.
And then November 7th of last year, Vin Diesel makes an Instagram post. And he says, my little brother Dwayne. Which is already like, dude, that's so emasculating. The time has come. The world awaits the finale of Fast 10. As you know, my children refer to you as Uncle Dwayne in my house.
No, they don't.
There is not a holiday that goes by that they and you don't send well wishes. But the time has come. Legacy awaits. I told you years ago that I was going to fulfill my promise to Pablo. That's Pablo. I think that's in reference to Paul Walker. I swore that we would reach and manifest the best Fast in the finale that is 10. I say this out of love, but you must show up. Do not leave the franchise idle. You have a very important role to play. Hobbs can't be played by no other. I hope that you rise to the occasion and fulfill your destiny. And Dwayne has said, no, I'm not coming back.
And he's not in F9?
As far as I know, he is not in F9.
Wow.
No, he's definitely not, or else these quotes wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that is the feud between the two baldest heads in Hollywood.
That's tough. I mean, I feel like in the long run, pretty petty, but there is, I think, definitely something to recognize though that like, this is like this has been Vin's series since the first movie, even though he wasn't in one of them. But like, I'm sure a lot of it stems from it is just really important to him. Yeah. And sometimes when something's really important to you, you act stupidly because you're afraid of losing control of it. Something that is probably means so much to you. The reason why maybe you're so successful. I mean, I know he's been successful in other things, but I mean, I would think that he's most well known for this series. So that's like, you got to recognize that.
Yeah.
But also it's just like dumb.
Yeah. And it's odd. I think what makes it more odd is by all accounts, if we take into effect that they have these, and I'm using this word not in a derogatory sense, but we have these huge egos on set, like 3 men that are like some of the biggest actors ever, and they have to share that spotlight. Like, it makes sense that there's tension there, but it's also like, really? Like, you're not gonna be in Fast 10, like the finale, because of that? It's not even a good
series. Who cares?
I know, just be in it.
You're getting paid so much money to be in a bad movie. A movie that showcases how strong you are.
Yeah.
Who cares?
And as Jordan and I were noticing, and it has been confirmed and reading stuff like that, they never filmed together for this entire movie. So
yeah, and it's pretty, I mean,
it's very obvious.
I was curious.
It's to the detriment of the story, honestly.
Well, that's what we were talking about last night of, do you think that any of that potentially affected the script even in a small way? And I feel like it's gotta in some way.
Well, I saw an article and they pointed out how like at the beginning of this movie, when they rob the EMP, it's like it just cuts to them robbing it. Mm-hmm. And they're all in their separate cars and stuff. And it's like, yeah, but in all the other Fast movies, they all get together and talk. And there's one shot in the entire movie where Dwayne and Vin are in the same shot, but it's such a fakeable split screen shot that, Dwayne has said that they didn't film together at all. So it's definitely a faked shot where they film half and then they film the other half and splice them together. But it's weird, like the ending of this movie, the stunt doubles, they look like them when they're in motion, but when they're standing there, you're like, oh, that bald guy is not Vin Diesel. The back of that guy's head, like,
I actually didn't notice any of that, but okay.
Oh, the barbecue scene at the end, it's like so clear that it's not.
I couldn't get over how bad the set looked. Period.
Oh, the set is horrible.
I didn't notice anything else. For a movie that expensive, what a very bad ending.
Yeah.
Pain.
And this movie looks
very bad.
It's very bad.
It's ugly.
Looking. We talked about how it's like Fast 4 doesn't look good, and then it upgrades in 5, then it downgrades in 6, upgrades in 7, and then it just goes right back down for 8.
Who directs the next movie? Oh, a John Wick guy.
David Leitch directs Hobbs and Shaw.
Yeah.
And then Justin Lin makes his return to Fast and Furious with F9.
Right.
That everyone was awaiting.
So hopefully in the next movie the action's better.
I would think it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I would think there's probably going to be a lot less car stuff in the next one. No, but I remember seeing Idris Elba on
there's helicopter stuff.
Motorcycle, and he's trying to deliver a virus that'll kill everyone, I think is the plot to the movie. International terrorist.
Honestly, that would make more sense.
No, he's a super soldier. He has a serum that makes him a super soldier.
Town.
Yeah.
Get out of town.
That's the plot of the next movie. I'm pretty sure.
In this movie, I was just waiting for someone to spawn into a different creature.
Yeah.
It was just weird.
But having said all this, I know that we're like razzing on the series quite a bit, folks. But I will say I do thank you for having us cover it, because it is really fascinating. And I think it makes for some really interesting conversation, because this is the weirdest series I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's weirder things like Gremlins to Gremlins 2, but that's just fun. And we have episodes on that on our Patreon. But this one is just like the most fascinating, strange series. And it's just interesting that it's like as popular as superhero movies when they started out as cars. It's all just crazy.
I'm borderline speechless at this point.
Well, should we talk about the movie in particular? So the movie begins in Cuba.
Yeah. Havana,
Cuba. And I mean, I loved the beginning of this movie.
Yeah. Me too.
And when I was seeing all the cars, because there's been I don't think there's an embargo anymore, but there's been an embargo so long in Cuba that they only have cars from like the 50s and 60s.
Yeah,
they don't have modern cars there.
I think they're also just known for that now. So I think it is like mostly what you see.
But certainly not by choice.
Havana's like a time. No, not by choice. But it's a 50s time capsule.
Yeah, so when I see all these 50s cars, I was like, oh, this is cool, because we've only seen like modern cars.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
And so we're seeing these, and I'm like, okay, I love this decision.
Yeah, and it's just him and Letty.
Yeah.
I guess it's their honeymoon.
Right. But they didn't get married in the last movie, but that's okay.
Well, they were married, period.
I know.
They were married before she lost her memory.
Yeah, so I guess it's like
maybe they were like, we never had the honeymoon. Give me a break. So they're having their honeymoon. Great destination choice. And tons of cars everywhere.
Yeah.
Butts galore. And Vin's cousin is in trouble. His car.
I think it's Michelle's cousin, but yeah. Letty's cousin.
Okay, fine.
Oh, no, it is his cousin, because he calls him a Toretto. You're right. I'm sorry.
His car is being taken away because, he didn't give the guy money.
Yeah, if you make a deal, you got to live up to it.
Yes.
That's what he says.
Yes. Much clearer than he said it. So, but the guy, he basically is like, oh, I'll race this guy who's taking the car away from his cousin for the car.
Uh-huh.
And his cousin's like, that guy's got the fastest car in Havana or on Cuba. You're never going to win. And I got the slowest car in the country. So he soups up the car.
Like, oh, no.
They had, Cuba has its own form of NOS.
Yes.
Which makes me think that every country has its own special formula.
Yeah.
I'm for it.
Yeah.
So he soups up the car. They get to racing.
Okay. I was like fully like, okay, I love this movie.
Yeah.
Vin takes the car. He starts by himself just ripping off like the body of the car so that it's lightweight. He's just ripping it off.
That's fine.
And I'm loving that.
Fine with it.
He takes like a Coke can, and it's going to like build up pressure in the engine so that he can release it later and like burst into flames.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Sure. Yeah.
It's like borderline. It's one of those things where I'm like, I don't know if this is real, but it feels like something you can do.
Yeah. I'm into it. So much better to me than later in the movie, the computer people are like, oh, it's not working because of this, so you'd have to do this.
If you get into the XY axis, you can
think
deprogram the central chronos.
Even if it's real, even if what they were saying was real, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We'll get to that later. I was very upset.
Yeah.
But they get to racing. They're racing through the streets of Havana, and Letty and some other people are following on motorcycles on the route. And someone flings a motorcycle in front of Vin, but he crashes and barrels through. The car catches on fire. He gets the NOS going. The fire's crazier. It bursts the windshield. He's got to drive backwards so that the flames are going a different direction. And I was just like, go for it. Let's do it.
Fist pumping. Loving this.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then he not only wins the race, but he has to jump out of the car going who knows how fast onto hot pavement as the car collides into the ocean and explodes. And everyone cheers, and we're cheering with everybody. And he wins the car for his cousin, although he just destroyed his cousin's car.
Yeah.
But I just love that the guy, is like, well, here's the keys to my car. We raced for the car. You got my car. And he's like, no, your respect's good enough.
Yep.
And it's like, yep. That's even
Love it.
That's in character, and every choice you're gonna make after this point is not in character. So like, this is great.
Well, and I love that his cousin is like, he goes, sorry about the car, and then Dom gives him his car.
Yeah.
And he said, your car was too slow for a Toretto anyway.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
And I love where his cousin has the keys and he turns to the crowd and he's like, ah! And the crowd is cheering with him because he gave him the car.
Yeah. Now, what I want to point out, a praise for this movie. And this is a full-on praise. Now, divorce it from Vin Diesel's story in this movie. I think this is his best performance in all the movies.
Okay.
Because it starts off at the beginning here.
Why would you say that?
Well, I was just ramping. It starts off in this movie, he's so charismatic in Cuba. More charismatic than he's ever been. So you're like, look at this sweetheart. So then when he turns, it has a little bit of impact. The story doesn't really make sense, and it's silly, but he's playing it so well. He's emotional in the movie, and then at the end when he comes back around, I think he's really good in this movie.
Okay. I get that.
Again, you have to imagine a world where the story's good.
What's funny about him, though, is it's Vin Diesel.
He shows range in this movie that he hasn't in any other.
That's true. But again, it's Vin Diesel. I think he is Vin Diesel in anything he plays.
Yeah.
Even when he's Groot. But yeah, I would agree with that.
Yes. Yeah, my trick is to get you to like this movie, Jordan.
You don't like this movie.
No, I know.
So him and Letty are on their honeymoon. They're talking about having kids.
I know, the foreshadowing now is so stupid.
Well, yeah, but there are so many things said in this movie that just don't make sense. Where they're in bed talking about kids, and he's thinking she's pregnant. She's like, no, I'm not pregnant. And they say something like, she's like, the question isn't,
do we want to have kids?
If we want to have kids, the question is, why haven't we asked or thought about it or something?
Which this whole movie's just full of like, it feels very screenwritery where someone's like, oh, this is really clever.
Yeah.
And you're like, shut up.
And this movie feels pretty dated. I mean, it's hard to remember that this is 2017 it came out. But I mean, I think it is kind of falling under the umbrella of like, my reference point is Marvel movies.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just like villains always have their monologues, but they give Charlize like 5 of them.
Yeah.
And it's always like there's got to be some philosophical reasoning behind it. And it's like, for this series, though, there really doesn't have to be one.
I know.
She can just want cars or want people to die.
Yeah.
Like, it really just doesn't need to be a big thing.
Yeah.
But they try so hard, and none of it makes sense.
No. Yeah. Well, speaking of her, that's who we meet next.
Yeah.
And she's like over a car that's ruined, and it's like making noises, and so she knows that'll get Vin. And she does this thing, and I mean, she's like pretty much completely expressionless in this movie. And so Vin walks up, and he's like, oh, here's what's wrong. And she's like, I know. Also, I know where you get coffee. Also, I know this. Also, I know that. And then she shows him a video. Now, he has no reaction to the video at all. It's like they hadn't written that part yet or something, and they were like, Vin, just watch a YouTube video for this clip. And so he doesn't react at all, and then then next scene.
Yeah.
I mean, weird opening to her, but she's going to use Dom against the team. And then we cut to probably the second best scene of the movie. And that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson with the soccer girls.
His daughter's soccer team. He's the coach.
Yeah.
And they do it's New Zealand, but Maori.
Well, I think it's Samoan, because isn't he Samoan?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Like a war chant.
Yes, which was great. I loved it.
And we're certainly not experts, but we did go to the Polynesian Cultural Arts Center when we went to Hawaii a few years ago. Mm-hmm. And they did dances like this.
That's the only way I know that's a thing.
So I feel like it was like an authentic, like Samoan. He even did the thing where
face
you make your mouth like crazy.
Well, you make your face scary because you're trying to scare people. And it looked like the girls were really enjoying it. Yeah. And that one girl, the other opposing team, was like, I don't feel like playing anymore.
and so I'm going, I like this. Then
and then some guy from the government comes up to him with a ginormous iPad with all this tech stuff on it.
All confidential classified information.
Just out in the open. But they do, the other funny joke where he's looking over at the bleachers and it's just all these moms.
Yeah.
And the guy makes the comment of like, there are more moms than kids.
Yeah.
And that's just funny.
And so he tells him, there's this EMP and you gotta steal it.
A nuclear bomb or
no? That's an electromagnetic pulse. It cuts power.
Oh, okay.
So
I know that from all of the superhero movies I've seen.
Well, the reason I really know it is because in Ocean's 11, that's what they use to knock out the power, and Don Cheadle does it.
Okay.
And he does a whole monologue about it, and then when he's about to pull it to press the button, he grabs his crotch because he's like, maybe I'll pee, I don't know, and then he clicks it.
I thought that might have been because like. Well, no, never mind. I don't know because what I was going to say wouldn't make sense.
Okay. Well, we will cover that series at some point.
Yeah.
From my recollection, and listener, if you know any examples before this, I think and would possibly argue that Ocean's 11 is what brought EMPs into the public conscious.
Sure.
But I'm not positive.
Okay.
But anyway, it certainly did for me.
So he takes the job. But the whole thing is he has to go like undercover into prison.
This far? Well, no.
No.
No,
the job he does, if he gets caught, he will go to prison because it's that under the radar. He'll be looked at as a criminal. So he has to. And the guy's like, "Do you got a team for this?" He's like, "Of course I got a team. Are they part of our government agency? No, but I'm going to use them for the third time." So they go to Germany to get it.
But this is so crazy. He calls. He calls Vin Diesel, Dom, and Dom answers the phone, and they have like the weirdest conversation in the world because clearly they were not talking to each other, and there's the emotions are all weird and stuff, and they're like, "Meet me in Berlin." Okay, sounds good. All right, cool. Nice to talk with you. See you later. It's like, what?
Yeah.
So they meet in Berlin. It just cuts to them in their cars.
It hard cuts to everyone in their cars. The plan's formed. They already have the EMP. They're just needing to get out.
And this is when you said, like, oh, this is a superhero movie. Because this felt like the beginning of Avengers Age of Ultron, where it introduces all the characters as they're attacking that base in Russia. Like, it just felt like that sequence where it's like, remember this person? Camera pans. Remember this person?
Yeah.
Joke. This person, this person.
That's when Roman and Ludacris and Ramsey come in.
Yeah.
To the picture. So, yeah.
Yeah. And
I mean, the big thing from that point is Vin causes The Rock to get into a car accident so that he can steal the EMP and go on his merry way. And he goes rogue.
Yeah, he goes rogue. And then Hobbs gets arrested.
Because the plan fails.
Yeah. I'm just so unclear as to why the government couldn't sanction the mission. Like, it must have been a line of dialogue, but it's like, if you're giving out this information in a soccer game.
I'm assuming it has to be so under the radar so the German government didn't even know it was going to happen. You know, like a surprise attack thing. But yeah, he's going to prison, but before he goes, nobody, or Kurt Russell, the charming Kurt Russell, who still seems to be having a good time. And I'm having a good time with him.
Great. He's great.
Is there to say, you can, if you just admit to the crime, we can get you out and you can work for me, which is like under the radar type of work. And his new his trainee is Scott, you said? Scott Eastwood, who was there just for tiny comedic effect and doesn't do anything to affect the plot.
Yeah.
Is he in the other movies? Is he in 9?
I think he is.
That sucks.
Yeah.
Because he's got nothing to do.
Yeah. But, that seems to be one of the tentpoles of this franchise. You have to have one guy who we're supposed to think he does a lot.
People who have nothing to do.
Yeah. And so then we cut back
to... The Rock doesn't take the deal.
Yes.
And he goes to prison. And who is there across from him in the shell?
Mr. Tea and Crumpets himself. Jason Statham. Something Shaw. Yeah. Deckard
Shaw.
And what is very funny about this movie, and I think it's a good choice because I like Statham and I like the dynamics he has with the crew, but they pretty immediately have to be like, yeah, he's not really a terrorist.
That's what's so crazy is these people, like a terrorist, their job is to cause terror and like murder people and take down like governments.
Like one thing we can all agree, terrorists, bad.
Well, I mean, it begs the question, how many former terrorists are working for the U.S. government now in real life?
But it's like we've seen him murder innocents before.
Yeah.
So in this movie, they have to, and I pointed them out when we got to them. There's certain scenes where they have to like establish like that he wouldn't do something like that, even though he has done that in the past. I think for where the franchise is headed, I think it's a good decision because I like him.
No, he's great.
But it does kind of take back what they established in Furious 7, which is their best movie. So
the whole series, though, is they make one movie not knowing what the next movie is going to be about.
Right.
And it seems like I'm assuming with 9, there will be like some knowing of what's going to happen in 10.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Because that's how it sounds like it. That from production stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like the little that I've heard. And there must be some kind of thing between this movie and 9 because Charlize is in 9 still, again.
Yeah.
And I think she's a bad guy.
I'm assuming that in the next movie or Fast 10, she will be a good guy. That is my guess.
She probably will, but gosh, will she be the most boring person on the crew.
Yeah. And I'm also just guessing that Gal Gadot comes back in F9. Like, I couldn't see a world in which...
Let's just have the whole party.
Yeah.
If you bring her back, you better bring back Han, though.
I think maybe they will. They could probably do that. So then we see Charlize Theron again, and she is giving a monologue, and I described it as it's like they wrote just monologues and lines, and they put them in a bowl, and then they just picked them out of the bowl, and they were like, okay, quarter mile at a time. Do a line on that.
That or a computer wrote her lines.
Yeah. And then there's the prison breakout.
Yeah.
That's a good sequence.
That was fun.
Yeah.
I thought the choreography was fun.
Yeah. It's fun that Dwayne's getting shot with rubber bullets and he's just like hulking.
Yeah. He straight up hulks.
I said this to you. For those who don't know, there is a villain of the character Shazam, and his name's Black Adam. And he has like a suit just like Shazam, except it's black, and it has the big lightning bolts on it.
That's a DC villain?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And this year they're coming out with Black Adam, the movie, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson is the star.
So they're making a movie about a villain.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that's my understanding. I've never read Shazam. I don't know much about it.
I mean, pretty much villain things is the best thing that DC has going for it.
Yeah. But he is the star of that. And when I was watching the sequence, I was like, oh, he's going to be so good in that movie.
Oh, I'm sure
he's going to be so good.
Yeah.
Because he's like already doing villain impervious to bullets right now.
Do you think it will be funny? Like Shazam?
I hope so. I can't remember who the director is, but I think it's someone that's a hit or a miss director.
I'm looking it up because it's worth it to me.
And I think they're a horror director, which Shazam was a horror director as well.
Yeah.
And that's the best DC movie, so...
I don't know how to even say this person's name, but they have done The Shallows. Oh, Orphan.
Okay.
The director...
What? Can you try and say his name?
Yeah. Dwami Colette Sarah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I've actually seen this guy's movies.
Yeah. Oh, he's Spanish, so maybe it's Jaume Colette Serra.
Okay. And I kept thinking Andy Muschietti was directing it, but he's directing The Flash.
Who's that?
The director of It 1 and It 2.
Oh, okay.
So that's what they got going for him. They just get horror directors to come in.
This picture of The Rock looks cool.
Yeah, he does look cool. I think it's going to be good. I'm excited about that one.
Yeah.
And of course, we will cover it the weekend after it comes out, folks. So make sure you subscribe to our podcast or feel the wrath of Black Adam, of course.
Egyptian gods.
Ah.
Fun.
So they break out. Jason Statham breaks out. Fun. And then they're captured by Mr. Nobody.
Yeah, and he orchestrated this whole thing to get them out.
Yep. And then the rest of the crew, besides Dom, of course, because he's evil and he won't be in the same room as The Rock, are in like a conference room. And this was just a weird thing. And it's so nitpicky. But for some reason, they have handcuffs on. They comment on it. Michelle Rodriguez picks the handcuffs while everyone else is getting theirs unlocked.
I don't know.
And I thought they were doing a really stupid like foreshadowing so that later in the movie she picks a lock, but she just picks it for some reason.
Yeah.
That was just weird. That's all. And then now they're like, okay, we got to team up with Shaw because he's really good at finding people because the God's Eye doesn't work anymore for finding Vin.
Yeah.
Because it pings everywhere.
Oh, gosh. That's the whole thing that was dumb, though, that they were like, so they were trying to find him. He's all over the world, which is impossible because they're doing some hacking thing. And then the hacker is like, well, it's probably because of this vocabulary word that no one knows what it means. And then Ludacris says, and also because if that, then it means this vocabulary word that no one means. No one knows what it means. And then they start hacking away.
I was like, am I watching Ant-Man?
And it's all to just get Kurt Russell to say to Scott Eastwood, like, pay attention. They're doing their job. They're good.
Yeah.
And then they figure it out, find out where he is. And it's like, so why do we have to waste 10 seconds of this movie of that?
So now they're going to be in New York City.
Yeah.
And it's just weird. So no, this isn't
They
weird.
found out that they were there because they bombed.
Oh yeah.
they stormed the place.
Yes.
And
here's one of the Shaw things. I really cut you off, but one of the Shaw things where they're like, remember, he's not really a terrorist. He jumps to save someone.
Oh no, Ramsey. He tackles her. Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I see what you're doing here. Whatever.
Yeah. Whatever.
But go ahead.
They steal God's Eye.
Yes.
That's why they had to come there. And then, Charlize kisses Vin.
You gonna turn your back on family just like that?
And this is like...
Make out with Charlize.
Oh my gosh, it's so dumb because...
Yeah.
We don't know why he's doing this yet.
Yeah.
It has not been revealed to us. So,
and this whole thing is family.
And I know it's going to be dumb. I know it's going to be as stupid as Letty losing her memory. It's going to be as stupid.
So if you had to rank, which one do you think was worse?
This one's worse.
Yeah,
this one's worse
because it's kind of a betrayal of his character. For 7
and
movies.
It doesn't make sense. It is a complete it's the same thing as the Letty thing of like if we erase her memory, it's going to be so much easier to write this story.
Yeah.
And to explain why she's a bad person now.
Yeah.
But they can, and it's just like so he just leaves his wife. So I mean, they made a point to let us know that they're married, and he just leaves her, and then he's with this other woman now, and she kisses him, and he kisses her back.
Yeah.
And she's just supposed to take it.
And it's like when when you're watching a romantic comedy and you're just like, if you guys just told each other.
Well, why? I mean, because usually in a movie, they do it. I mean, I'm sure the whole situation was like, this is what we have over you, Vin. And you can't tell a single living soul about it or else we'll kill the baby. But they never said that.
I know.
Which to me is like, he could have told Letty like, I'm about to do a lot of things in the next couple months that are not going to make sense to you, and it's going to make you really doubt me as a person and my love for you. But just know that no matter what, I love you, and I fight for you above all. Just something like that.
He could have said, "Hey, the girl that I was with, or she had a baby."
But I'm saying even if he was like threatened to not say anything,
but she wouldn't tell. You know what I mean?
No,
it wouldn't affect her actions.
At one point, I thought she did know. Because even in that scene before they were bombed, she was acting in a way that, I mean, she was obviously very upset because she doesn't know what's going on, and this is her freaking husband.
Right.
But I thought that she was acting the way because it's like, oh, when is she going to tell everyone why he's doing this?
Yeah.
Is what I thought. But yeah, so they leave with the God's Eye, and then they're back in the plane, and I just hated this too when Charlize is like, you kiss, basically like, you kiss me back. You know, we all have a choice.
Yeah.
Why did you choose to do that? We all have a choice. And then later on when she's saying that BS of like, that we really have two things to do in this world. People connect with people only to get information. And then the other side just has to make a choice. It's all about choices.
We were all in an alligator pond, and then when our babies would get killed, we would then learn it's evolutionary. Like, what are you talking about?
It makes no sense.
What?
And not only that, so she has these big philosophical things that she doesn't even know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
And then the rest
that was when they pulled out of the bowl. It's like, make monologue about evolution. And they were like, okay, we got to do the bad guy evolution
basically, because she's about to have codes of nuclear weapons and she wants to send us back to the Stone Age. And when she's done doing that, the other part of her role in this movie is to looking at a TV screen and saying, I don't like that. Do this now. Where is he here? Go do this or else I'm murdering your baby.
I love that. I loved that. But okay, so folks, I am, of course, we're tearing into this, but I have to say, when this twist happened with the baby, I was like, you know what? This is such a bad idea and it's so stupid. I love it. Like, I like this twist because it's such a bad decision.
Mike and I had to. Okay, well, let's just get there.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, this is the scene where it happens.
Okay,
after the kissing.
It is revealed to us that Vin has had a baby with Elena, who is the translator from the fifth movie, who's been in the other movies. But they have not been together since being together. Mike and I had to pause the movie to not only process the dumb twist, but to try to figure out timeline-wise how that was possible. And of course, we just had to determine it doesn't matter.
Well, no, I mean, what I determined is at the end of Fast 5, he's with her. That's when they get together. In Fast 6, I think that's when the impregnation begins. And at the end of because she says in this scene, she says, I found out when Letty came back. And Letty comes back in 6. So at the end of the movie, it's like she could have told him, but she didn't. So then in between 6 and 7, she off screen has a child. Hobbs doesn't know about it. No one knows about this child. And 7 plays out. And there's still no child, and no one talks about it.
I will say in 7 at the beginning, remember at the very beginning of the movie, Hobbs like runs out to give a resignation, like some kind of letters of resignation.
Oh yeah.
Thing. I don't think that's anything.
Though.
I don't think they knew what they were doing yet.
Yeah.
For the next movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah, while we were pausing and talking about it, I said people saw this in theaters and could not pause the movie to figure this out.
Yeah.
They just had to go with it.
And this is when I realized, okay, yes, people say these are superheroes with cars. They say they're gonzo, they're crazy, the timeline's insane. It's simpler than that, folks. We're just watching Days of Our Lives and All My Children. Mm-hmm. And that's it. These are just soap operas. And then when I look back at the old movies, I'm like, yeah, these are soap operas. Yeah. That's what this series is.
Yeah.
They've put soap operas in cars and got guys to go to the theaters to see them. That's the trick.
Yeah.
So I love this, even though I've never seen those soap operas. And then, we paused and tried to work out the baby schedule. And then there's a scene where Scott Eastwood is like talking about all the cars that they can use. And I just in my head, I imagined this movie premieres. It's been in theaters for a little bit, and Scott calls his dad, Clint Eastwood, and he goes, Dad, what did you think of the movie? Did you see it? And, of course, Clint Eastwood never saw the movie, but he goes, yes, son, you did really well. That was a good movie. And then he's like, okay, let's finish American Assassin.
I genuinely cannot imagine how Clint Eastwood is as a father. No, I'm not even saying that I think he would be a bad father. I just can't. I can't imagine ultra famous people being parents.
Yeah,
because they don't live a normal life. They have not lived a normal life ever, and neither are their children.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine that.
Yeah. But I just like to imagine that he's just like, yeah, I totally saw it. It was great. You did a great job, Scott. He's like, I don't even know what, he probably doesn't even know what Fast and Furious is.
I wonder if this just made me think of it. It's so off topic.
Yeah.
But I one time was watching this interview with John, the guy from Django.
Oh, Don Johnson, yeah.
And I forget what he was promoting.
Yeah.
But that's when I found out that Dakota Johnson is his daughter,
yeah.
which was crazy and just is always kind of depressing in a weird way where it's like, and you really just got to know people to make it in the biz.
When you're artists like Jordan and I are,
yeah.
Besides, even beyond the podcast, it's always like, oh, so I only could have made it if like my dad was a musician, like a famous musician. That's
how it feels when you find out
my dad is
things.
A musician, but you know.
No, yeah. But
or like your parents had to be famous authors. That's why when you hear of a Stephen King or something, it's like,
But he won the lottery.
I know,
he didn't win the lottery. He's genuinely talented, but
it's like he has no ties to publishing.
Many genuinely talented people who no one will ever read their book.
Yeah.
But like he was, I think the person was just asking like, what's it like to have acting kids? Because I'm assuming he has more kids, but they were mostly alluding to her. Yeah. Of course, he's like so proud of her and stuff. But he said that in his household, they're very strict on like when you turn 18, you're either gonna you're an adult.
Yeah.
Are you going to college? Or if you're not like furthering your education, or if you're like wanting to do something different. I'm making him sound like a mean parent, but it did not come across that way.
Yeah.
But pretty much he was like, then you're gonna be cut off.
You got to make something of yourself. You can't just coast on this.
And I think it was like, I'm assuming with him and his wife, they were just very much like, we would really like you guys to go to college, which so many parents are like that.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you're not deciding to do that, that's fine. You will be cut off though. And apparently that was Dakota Johnson's case, where she was like, I really want to act. And he said, that's great. Support you. You will be cut off. I'm assuming though, he did not cut her off from all of the millions of connections he has in Hollywood. But I think that means
you're cut off. But here's my agent.
Here's my publicist. Here's my manager's numbers. But I'm assuming that meant like financially, you are cut off from our multi-million-dollar estate.
Like you only get like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, not millions.
Yeah, but I'm just curious, like if that is real in that family's household. What it's like in others.
Yeah.
If it's similar or if it's just like...
Oh, yeah. We're talking about the Eastwoods. I was like, I don't even remember what we're talking about.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is a very interesting thing to think about.
Side tangent. I hope that was not boring for other people.
If it was, leave us a 5-star review on Apple and let us know how boring it was.
Yeah. I'm just done talking about this series, so I got to talk about something else.
Well, then Vin Diesel's in New York, and he's like, okay, I'm going to cruise. I'm going to get something or other.
So this was a question I had. He's driving this car, and immediately I'm like, whatever he is using, he is being provided with because he just jumped on a plane with this woman.
Uh-huh.
As he's driving this car, there is a button by the pedals.
The clunker button.
The clunker button, and he steps on the button, and his car starts clunking. And he has to stop. Charlize is freaking out like he can't stop. That's not part of the plan. And he's like, I just got to check the engine, see what's going on. So he has a button that clunks the car.
Yeah. How
would she not know that he's got a button to clunk the car?
Oh, it's because he has a button that clunks a car.
Wild stuff. And then he's working on the car.
Yeah.
And that's one of the moments where she's like, I don't like this. What's going on?
It's like 4 minutes of her just being like,
long.
I need you to get in another view. We got to get in there and see what he's doing. I don't like this.
And then
I don't like this.
A van blocks the view. And at that point I thought like, I feel like Letty still is on all this. So I feel like that was like in 45 minutes, we're going to find out that she was in that van.
Yeah.
It's kind of a similar situation, but not Letty.
Yeah, we find out it's the Cuban guy from the beginning of the movie.
But
I kind of like this, and I like that he goes in there, and we see Helen Mirren.
No one ever told us that.
Nobody spoiled that, and that I was like, okay. I was starting to lose steam on this movie, but I was into it.
And I loved that.
She gets the F word in this movie.
She gets the F word, and she delivers it good.
Yeah.
And then what I love too is she is in such a thick Cockney accent.
It's great.
As well as Jason Statham is. And it's kind of a bummer that Luke Evans is just talking probably how he normally talks. And that's fine.
Yeah.
But it made me wish that they were just big Cockney accent. I'm thinking of just like British gangsters.
Yeah.
Low life people. Basically Snatch. And I want to watch that movie.
Yeah. I think Helen Mirren's great in this. And I hope that she gets to fulfill a role that Kurt Russell does, where it's like in the next movies,
so fun.
She'll just pop up and say hello.
About Kurt Russell and Helen Mirren
falling in love, or maybe
I don't know. Just let it be about them. Let's see what they can get done.
Yeah, it's Nobody and Shaw.
Yeah,
it's the sequel to Hobbs
Mrs.
and Shaw. Mr. Nobody, Mrs. Shaw.
Okay,
that's Fast and Furious presents Mr. Nobody and Mrs. Shaw.
Yeah, and
that's
it's a
good.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith style movie.
Yes. And then, so there's all this nonsense happening. The crew's going to try and get Dom. And then they do zombie time on the cars. Zombie time? Cool.
Because I think these, Russian men, Eastern European men have the codes to nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
So that's what they're trying to stop them.
That's right. And so
they get we're in the age of self-driving cars, which means anything's hackable at any time, and they hack all the cars, hundreds of thousands and thousands of cars being hacked. It's a fun idea. I thought, this was
it could look better. It could look a lot better. But
one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah, I like the idea.
Genuinely an interesting idea.
Actually, I think if I'm remembering the action sequences, I think the only one that's disappointing is the finale, the last 30 minutes of the movie. I think everything else is pretty cool action sequences.
That's probably because they're just chasing each other on a flat surface.
And it doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
Like the other scenes also, they're not quite to the caliber, but like at least it looks better than the last scene. The last scene looks pretty ugly. But, so the cars are flying around and then they say, let's make it rain. And then cars start flying off of a parking garage and smashing all over this limo. Okay. Yeah. I'm into that.
And then Vin gets out with a motorcycle style chainsaw.
It's shaped like a motorcycle, folks. Go back and look.
And he's threatening to blow up the car.
Uh-huh.
But they give him the codes. And he's racing through New York and the crew catches up to him and they all put a grappling hook on his car.
Cool.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
And then
I genuinely was just like, what's going to happen?
Yeah, this part is cool. And they're all like backing up on different streets. So it's like ripping apart his car.
Mm-hmm.
And then he's able to somehow get out of it because of his like spider sense or something like that.
I think all the cars crashes and he runs on foot. Because that's when Jason Statham starts running after him and then he shoots him. Vin shoots him.
Twice.
In
each shoulder.
And
pow.
I mean, obviously Mike and I know that he doesn't die because of other movies. I mean, there's a movie literally called Hobbs and Shaw. But, I mean, at no point should people think that anyone's dying.
Yeah.
The only people who die at this point are bad guys. And she didn't even die.
If he had died, I wouldn't be surprised if, because of the weird timeline of this movie, if they were like, actually, Hobbs and Shaw had an adventure before Tokyo Drift.
Yeah, that's true.
And so then because... So like Letty chases Dom and she's like, really? Are you really doing this? And then the guy from Game of Thrones pulls out a gun and he's going to kill her. And then Dom is like, don't you do that.
Well, then she gives up the briefcase.
And then Letty doesn't the briefcase and Letty doesn't die. And then he goes on his merry way. But then Charlize is like, I never actually caught her name, by the way, in the movie.
I'm going to look it up.
But Charlize is like, okay. And they kill the translator, which
I'm not convinced.
Was surprising to me. Oh, yeah, we didn't see it happen.
Well, I mean, I don't think they're going to watch. I don't think of that kind of movie they're going to show us her getting shot.
Well,
in the head.
That would have been kind of brutal.
But
what's Charlize's name? Come on, I don't want to edit.
How could we forget?
Oh yeah, Cypher. But so.
Oh no, she probably did.
It seemed like she died, but.
Oh yeah, she's not in F9. I thought I saw that she was in F9, so I was confused.
But it could be a situation where she does have mutant healing factor like Wolverine.
Which is great for their son.
Yeah. Oh my gosh,
because he'll be super strong and he'll be Wolverine.
Yeah.
He's self-healing, right?
Yeah.
Can't believe I remembered that.
And he has adamantium bones, of course. So he's unbreakable bones. They can't really.
And aren't his claws vibranium?
No, they're adamantium. Come on.
Isn't that stronger than vibranium?
I don't know I don't know. Okay. So she dies.
We'll know one day when we cover X-Men.
Yes. And it did not win our bracket.
So it won't be this time.
As far as we know, I mean, right now, the audience knows what we're going to cover next. But right now, the last time I checked, Indiana Jones and Back to the Future, it is really a toss-up. It's going back and forth all day.
I want it to be Back to the Future, man.
And there was one point where it was tied like 5-5 earlier today. But a couple patrons had voted, and patrons' votes count as 2, but it equaled the same amount. Whoa. And it was still a tie.
Whoa.
So, pretty crazy. Heating up. We'll see what happens. Then, oh my gosh, we're already at the end of the movie.
Thank goodness.
Because then they go to Hoth.
Oh, yeah. With those llama creatures.
Tauntauns, of course.
Yeah.
Which is probably the series we're going to be talking about. I'm betting it's going to win.
Walkers?
Yes. Good job.
That seems to be the only thing I can remember about Star Wars.
That's good, though. But in a few weeks, you're going to remember a lot. And, folks, it's going to be fun and refreshing. I know there's been so many Star Wars takes, but we're going to have a lot of fun.
And I mean, I just feel like I need to say it every time. I do like Star Wars.
You do like Star Wars. I've been witness to that.
A lot.
But what's going to happen is my plan is to take you from the way I felt about Harry Potter, where I was like, yeah, I like it. It's good, to like, no, I'm a Harry Potter fan. That's what I hope is going to happen when we cover Star Wars. Because you'll have to really, take it in.
Yeah.
So I wrote Hoth, and then I wrote Brain Shut Off again.
Is that your brain shutting off? Because my brain definitely shut off.
Yeah.
So we all go to so basically they're going to this Russian base, and it was recently owned or occupied by terrorists.
Uh-huh.
But it's no longer occupied by terrorists, just some other bad guys with guns, and Russia has not reclaimed it yet. So it sounds like it's a free-for-all is what I got from it.
Yeah.
So
sure.
They were going to go get the submarine, and I'm assuming the submarine has nuclear missiles on it.
Sure. I don't know.
That's my guess. So they go there.
Yeah.
And they start fighting everybody. Vin is under the submarine doing the EMP business.
Yeah.
Which gets the submarine going. But then
it's funny, I didn't take notes on any of the stuff you're talking about.
I do know that the hacker Ramsey needed to get into the base to hack the submarine.
Yeah.
Which is why she was in there with Letty, and Letty was getting beat up, but then killed that guy.
I actually had a moment similar to, I think it was Fast 5, where I was like, I don't even remember how the characters got from their cars to this spot.
No, me neither. But then Scott Eastwood, Roman are in the submarine, and Ludacris are in the submarine trying to hack or trying to shut it off.
They were in it?
They were in it, which I don't remember how they got out of it. But basically, they're not successful. The submarine is in transit.
It's crazy how much I can't remember the sequence.
And they have to drive 10 miles to some other place across this frozen lake.
Okay.
So that's when they all get into their cars.
It's like you're telling me a new story that I've never heard.
I can't believe I remembered this much.
I know, I'm impressed.
So they all get into their cars and they're driving across a frozen lake.
Uh-huh. Then what happens?
Well, that's just a really long action scene.
Well,
it's not as boring as the plane one.
Of the Fast 6?
Of Fast 6, but it is still a little long.
I think everything until they're like going on the ice and it's a chase and Hobbs isn't involved, it's pretty much like kind of bad action. Yeah. I'm not really sure what's happening, and it's overload and it just doesn't look great. But once they're like racing on the ice, I'm like, okay, now I'm tracking. But right about that time, we see 2 jetpack flyers.
Oh, yeah.
Out of nowhere.
And
I had no clue what was happening.
We both, while watching the movie, were like, did we both check out hard enough that we never saw how this started?
But no.
And then.
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe. But they both get onto this plane, the one that Charlize is on. And it's the Shaw brothers. And it's just okay, jetpacks, check that off the list.
Yeah. And so
they're infiltrating.
Let's just talk about the airplane.
Okay, so they're infiltrating the plane to save the baby.
Yeah. And they get the baby.
And I mean, that's when we find out that there was a lot of, not retconning, but flashbacking in the movie to explain why Vin met with Helen Mirren.
Yeah.
And Helen Mirren knew that Jason was going to get shot.
Yeah.
to get him in the ambulance. She tells him what he's going to do, and she tells him, which I think this is kind of funny, you have to get your brother to go with you.
Yeah,
It just sounded like such a mom thing. Like you have to let him play with you.
Right.
Because he was just annoyed brother-wise.
Yeah.
So they get on the plane.
And all the stuff with Jason Statham, like fighting and then like protecting the baby, all that was great.
Yeah, I thought that was really fun.
I loved all of that. The whole plane fighting, great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And in the middle of all that, Cypher / Charlize escapes the plane.
Oh, yeah, and we don't see her again, right?
No.
Okay. But then it's funny because and maybe this is just because we've seen so many action movies, but she's like, you didn't count on the parachutes, did you? And then she hops out of the plane, and I'm like, oh, they're going to have to do some emergency landing. And then it cuts to Owen Shaw, who we haven't seen in like 10 minutes. And he's like, he has a gun to the pilot's head, and he's like, okay, go ahead and land the plane now. I'm like, what?
Yeah. Resourceful.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. That was just a confusing thing as being indoctrinated on all of these different action tropes. And they're like, of all the tropes we're following, we're not following that one this time.
Yeah.
So then we're back on the ice, and Dom hears that the baby's fine. So he's able to kill the guy who's about to kill Letty by a sniper shot. And he does so, and then he drives his car down, and like immediately when he drives it down, everyone's like, woohoo, Dom's back.
With the crew. Letty's smiling at him through in between the cars.
Yeah.
They all know. They feel it in their hearts.
Yeah.
So I thought this was kind of cool when Roman's car went underwater.
Oh yeah, this was cool.
And Ludacris pulled him out with like the grappling hook on his door.
Yeah.
That was cool. And then he had to enter the car with the Rock, and then the Rock did the whole torpedo thing, which was cool.
The torpedo thing was like the highlight. Yeah. Like there's a torpedo that's sliding on the ice, and the Rock's like, hold on to the wheel. He jumps out, and he is grabbing it. And then he's like, make a hard turn or something like that. And he's like, what? And he goes, do it. And he does it. And then it guides the torpedo to hit the other people.
Else? Yeah.
And I just love, like, his character is just insane, where it's just like, that is the only option, and I do it now. There's no hesitation. There's no nothing.
Right.
It's just like, okay, that's what I do now.
Yeah.
And so, and then Vin Diesel also, like, a torpedo, like a heat-seeking torpedo is coming or something like that.
Yeah, you said when that happened, they released the torpedo, and the Rock's like, that's a heat-seeking torpedo. Everyone's got to get out. And then you said, I cannot read, if I can't read text messages on TVs when
someone has a text message on a TV, I can almost never read it, and yet all these characters can see like a mile away and know which type of missile is being fired. It's crazy.
And then the heat-seeking missile is chasing after Vin. Vin, just in time, jumps over the submarine. It hits the submarine. He rolls out of his car. His car is destroyed. And
cool.
He's going to be consumed by fire. But his family surrounds him with their cars.
Yeah.
And he is not consumed by fire.
Yeah. I mean, cool. Yeah. Into that. And then it's the barbecue.
In New York City, on top of the most manufactured, bad-looking rooftop barbecue I've ever seen.
You said it looked like the rooftop in the room.
It did. It really did.
It actually did.
Yeah.
It, like a slightly updated, slightly.
Yeah.
And so
it looked like there probably were Coronas in there, but it looked like a commercial. Like it looked that manicured.
Yeah. Yeah. And then at the end, Shaw like goes up to Vin, and he's like, I can't believe you went and saw my mother. And he laughs. And I was like, that's another thing. They're like really hitting hard. He's not a bad guy. He's just killed a few, probably 100 or 1,000 innocents. He's not a bad guy.
Been responsible for the deaths of.
Yeah.
In the last movie, we saw a whole hallway littered with bodies.
I know. He killed
a lot of people.
And they're like doctors. He just killed like doctors, like some of our most important
I think a lot of it was security officers.
but
I'm not saying that makes it.
There were nurses and doctors.
Yeah.
So the other thing is Dom has the baby, and he's holding it. And I said, I haven't seen Fast 9, but my hope is, this is my hope for the movie. And if this is my hope, it's a 10 out of 10, no matter what happens in the movie. I hope that Vin Diesel holds the baby in every scene in the movie. If he holds the baby in every scene in the movie, it's a 10 out of 10 for me. That's what I'm saying right here, right now.
Who knows where the timeline is on that movie? The baby could be 15 years old by then.
That'd be so fun. They're like, it's 2050. The war has been ravaged.
I mean, who knows?
They should do that. They should jump ahead like 100 years, and they have like serums that keep them alive, and they're searching for the fountain of youth with Jack Sparrow or something like that.
Yeah.
This, there's lots of jokes about, or I think throughout time, I don't know about jokes, but just an idea of like crossing over different franchises, Alien versus Predator, stuff like that. I think this series would lend itself easily to crossing over with other series more than most series.
Yeah. It's like the most blank slate.
Yeah.
Type of one. Yeah.
Because also everyone we've talked to is always like, oh yeah, they do this now in the movies, and that's cool. Like no one is like, oh man, they stopped like caring about physics. They're like, oh no, they don't care about physics anymore. It's awesome. Mm-hmm. They fly to space now. It's awesome. Like, so everyone is into it. So they could do that.
That kind of stuff, it's like, I'm fine with that. It's the story that, like, the story's not there.
I know.
And that's what's hard.
But I do think after talking through this whole movie, it seems even more clear to me now that it's definitely my third favorite.
Okay.
And it's on the verge of almost like, I would almost say that I like this movie. Because I like how gonzo it is. Mm-hmm. And even though the story is so stupid, I kind of like how stupid the story of this movie is. So I kind of like this movie. So it's an easy 3 for me.
Okay.
But yeah, the baby's name is Brian.
Yeah, name's the baby Brian.
Yeah. And that is the fate of the Furious. So, I mean, we're almost there, Jordan.
Yeah.
We only have 2 left.
The end is in sight until they make the next one.
Mm-hmm. And if you're listening to this and you're going, that was fun, I need more, you can go to our Patreon, patreon.com/Micah McCaw. There's a link in the episode notes, and you can listen to, I think we have like well over 20, we're probably approaching 30 exclusive episodes that can only be heard on our Patreon.
Cool.
And we cover series that only have 2 entries.
That's a lot.
So this, I believe...
Well, not the 2, the 30.
Yeah. I believe that this month it's Speed 2, Cruise Control, that we're talking about, which we're watching tonight. And I would imagine that is going to be a very funny episode where we are going to be very frustrated.
I just hope that they are really safe in this movie because it's called Speed 2, Cruise Control.
Yeah. But thank you for listening. Please subscribe and rate our podcast.
Yes, please.
And we'll see you next week when we talk about Fast and Furious Presents Hobbs and Shaw.
Bye.